All right, Jesse on Fire, welcome back to the channel. I have 10,000 subscribers. Look at that. Look at that, guys. Congratulations to me, and thank you to you guys. You guys have been amazing. I started this thing a year ago. My goal was to get to 10,000 inside of a year, and I think I did it in like a year and like 8 days or something like that. So you guys are always extraordinarily awesome about commenting, liking, and sharing, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. Now, I was going to do a really special 10,000 show. I talked to Eric Nixick. I was going to go to Extreme Couture. I was going to film myself with him and Francis. And once I got there, I was going to see if Francis was down to let me do a body kick challenge. Have you seen him do he lets the big guys like punch him just straight in the solar plex? I was going to see if he would let me kick him in the stomach, just a straight up round kick to the stomach. Now, partially, it would just be because how gangster that'd be. I know it probably wouldn't hurt him, but it also would make me look like a badass because then you guys could see me kick something really hard. But now that I've said it out loud, I probably won't do it. But nonetheless, I was 100% solid going to do this thing with Eric and Francis, but I was going to time it around my move to Texas, and that's happening in a couple weeks, and I hit 10,000. So what am I going to do? Just not do a video? So instead, we're going to talk about Conor McGregor. What do you know? We're going to talk about Conor and Dustin, Conor selling his company and all that, because I've got a good video about that. Believe it or not. Believe it or not, I've got a good video. So if you're new to this channel and you just happen to stumble on my, hey, look, I made 10,000 subscribers video as your very first one, there's a reason. There's a reason. This is a different kind of channel than most MMA channels, and you'll see that right now. So please subscribe and join the community. This is a community here. I just want to actually point that out also. This is not just like, I'm subscribed to this channel. Like, we got a community here, and people who come in and try to poison the waters, they don't last, man. If you look at my comments, go compare the comment section on my videos to other people's, in the same spot, people arguing, yada. People don't do that shit here. Like, we don't have trolls because they get overwhelmed by people who are like, this is not how we talk to each other here, bro. It's not that kind of channel. Now, I will get periodically people who don't understand my sense of humor, and they're all, this guy thinks he's amazing. I'm like, well, that's true, but also I'm like kind of joking, but like half joking. Anyway, that's a tangent. So let's talk about Conor McGregor, because Conor McGregor sold Proper 12 for $600 million. Now that sounds a hell of a lot more like a number that makes sense, because in case you guys weren't paying attention a couple months ago, the rumor went out that he got bought out for $100 million. I was like, what? Because they had talked about the numbers. I was like, man, he got, and I actually did a video about it where I thought that it's possible the investors had an exercise clause in the contract that gave extraordinarily favorable terms to the investors in the event that they wanted to buy them out at this point, whatever. But $600 million, that's a whole different ballgame. $600 million, that's a lot of dough, dude. That is a lot of dough. So him, what's his name, who's his manager, and there's one other guy are the partners. I would imagine Conor is the majority shareholder. So Conor probably made, I don't know, 300 to 450 of that payout, which is amazing for him. That's next level dough, dude. Like, that's next level dough. That's the thing, dude. Like, Floyd Mayweather's made a lot of money, and he's made it in increments. I actually don't believe, when they say, you got a $300 million payout, those numbers don't make sense to me for a boxing match. I think the boxing thing is they inflate the numbers, but it's just a good way to promote fights. Oh, this guy's gonna make $800 million to this fight, and they're like, damn, let me read about it, because it's just common sense. What kind of articles do people read about? What's the reason they read about them? All right, well, let's just do that. People read about gigantic paydays, so tell them there's a gigantic payday. They'll read about it, promote the fight. But yeah, a big hit like that all at once, that is, I realize Conor's already wealthy, but like, this is, a different level now. But anyway, it'll be interesting to see what he does, because obviously he's just going to start more businesses, but not before the Dustin Poirier fight. And let's talk about that, because, so first of all, Conor, the story that I read yesterday was that Conor donated $500,000 to a different charity in Louisiana. And initially, there's a couple things there. Number one, Conor did that as a dig to Dustin for sure. Number two, it's hilarious. Like, it's actually hilarious. And Conor actually donated the money. It's not like he's light on dough, but he actually donated. It's not like he committed it, because that's the other thing I was going to talk about. That, how did I not bring this up? This is bizarre, actually, because this is something that I meant to bring up and I just didn't in my other videos. But the commit money to a charity and then don't actually pay it, that's a standard thing that rich people do. Like, I mean, like that happens all the time. It's like wealthy people or wealthy organizations, they pledge certain numbers to charities to get the publicity, and then they'll partially pay it or not fully pay it or whatever. Like that's par for the course. First, I mean, it's not okay. I would never do it. I would never do that. And in case you guys didn't catch my other video where I alluded to that, I have a new project. And this is the most excited I've ever been about a project. Even Steven with Major League Fantasy early on, but this is big, man. This is big. This is going to be huge. Like, and when you guys start to see some PR about it, your brains are going to melt. You're going to go, no fucking way. Like, this is not like big, like, oh, I have this cool, everyone's going to know what it is. And I wish I could tell you more about it now, but I can't. But anyway, but yeah, so let's say that does what we think it'll do, and it'll be this gigantic, extraordinarily huge project. Like, I'm still never going to make a public pledge and then not fucking pay it. Like, I would never, like, as the corporation or as myself, I would never do that. But people do that. But Conor not paying Dustin and then paying another charity, I thought was hilarious when I first saw it. I wasn't sure, how Dustin would take it, but I watched Dustin's interview with Ariel Harwani this morning, which happened after Conor donated the $500K to the other charity, and I have a lot of notes to talk about relating to that interview and this upcoming fight. Because first of all, Dustin is still in the mode of he thinks that he's going to be in some form of a similar environment to the last one, and he's not. Okay, he's definitely 100% not. Like, Conor's coming for blood this time, not just in the octagon, but in the build-up. Conor is going to do everything he can to psychologically eviscerate Dustin. And if this doesn't tell you that, like, Dustin went public, he said the thing. Dustin went public, said the thing. He got into it with Conor. Conor, threatened to pull out of the fight, whatever. And Dustin apologized, and he said that he did that, because he wanted to take any negativity off of his organization, which is fine, and so maybe he thought it's cool. And dude, it ain't cool, man. Conor did not respond to that. Like, Conor didn't go, "Oh, it's cool." Like, you gave Conor, you lit the match. Like, you gave Conor an in. Like, what I was talking about a million times is related to the last fight. As I said, it's hard. It would be hard for Conor to come in and be super psychologically, like, abusive to Dustin in the build-up for the last fight. It's like, dude, Conor came in on a $40 million yacht and bought a $1.2 million watch, like, on his way in. And Dustin has nowhere near that. Like, I mean, Dustin's probably got, if I was going to guess Dustin's net worth based on his fight career, he's probably worth $3 million, And I'm saying that based on him being a guy who I believe probably saves his money. He's probably worth $3 million, something like that. And Conor spent half his net worth on a watch that week. So, like, Conor coming in, having already knocked him out, and then he's doing this thing with charity, and then being super abusive on stage, would have been terrible for his brand with Proper 12, which doesn't matter anymore, but also would have been sociopathic, right? Like, he's nice. Like, Dustin always plays it nice, right? So for Conor to come in and just be mean as a guy who's creeping up on $1 billion, and he has everything, and he just go crush Dustin instead of just beating him in the fight, like, that would have been completely psychopathic. But now, different ball game. Now you gave Conor the ammo he needs to play the other game. Dustin gave it to him. He walked right into it, dude. He walked right into it. And so maybe it doesn't matter in the fight, but I can tell you right now, Dustin doesn't want a nasty buildup. Like, I don't care if he thinks that it doesn't affect him anymore. He doesn't want it. He doesn't want a nasty public buildup with Conor, especially at now huge sold-out public press conferences, which is exactly what this is going to be, and then a sold-out arena, okay? This next fight could not be more different than the last one. Could not be more different. Like, literally could not be more different. And I'm not saying that Dustin's going to lose, but I just want to put this in perspective, okay? Number one, you had Conor coming into the last one extraordinarily overconfident, okay? Like, ridiculously overconfident. He's planning on boxing Manny Pacquiao right after this. He's literally talking about his next fight in another sport. And then subsequently he comes in and tries to, do a boxing match with Dustin Poirier in an MMA fight because he's training boxing, thinking about, I'll beat this guy, then I'll go fight Manny Pacquiao. He ran through Cowboy and he's just like, I've already knocked out Dustin. So, I mean, like, you can't exaggerate how overconfident he was, And in addition to that, there are the very, very, very limited crowds. I know there were some people there because it was Abu Dhabi, but like very limited crowd. The press conference is a limited crowd. The spectacle of the whole thing is a microcosm of what this next one's going to be. This next one's the first full crowd Vegas show. This is going to be people flying in from Ireland, like people, tearing their eyeballs out in the crowd. They're going to lose their fucking minds. And Dustin and Conor's being nice last time. This time you got all this new environment. The Conor is taking this 100% seriously. You're going to have the crowd screaming, going crazy. The Conor fans are lunatics. And you're going to have Conor on a 10 trying to fuck with you. Literally trying to fuck with you. And then the night of the fight, the last time, it's like, there's just nothing but this man-to-man thing, dude. And that definitely favors Dustin. Now, again, I'm not saying that Dustin wouldn't have beat Conor in front of a big crowd, especially given that Conor wasn't prepared for the calf kicks, and that's pretty standard procedure for Dustin. But guess what? He's going to be prepared for the calf kicks this time, and there's going to be an enormous, rabid crowd. It's going to be nuts, man. It's going to be nuts. And, I don't know. I wrote down that Dustin Poirier is such a nice guy, man. Like, I really like him, dude. Like, he's like a good man. Like, to where even when he knows what's coming, he's still like, I'm not doing it, man. Like, I'm just gonna be nice and we'll see what happens. We'll see how it goes when they actually get under the lights and they have microphones in front of them. We'll see. But, when Ariel asked him about the charity thing, he goes, he's like, look, I said, we're past that. I didn't say anything that wasn't true, but we're past it. And I'm thinking in my head, I literally wrote down, you're not past that, motherfucker. Like, you are not remotely past that. You might be past that. Conor's not fucking past that. There's no way Conor's past that, dude. Conor tweets no more Mr. Nice Guy, right? After the first fight. No more Mr. Nice Guy. Everyone's like, all right. And everyone said, they're like, it's going to be weird if he comes back mean. Like, he comes back like, it would be weird. And Dustin just served it to him. Like, just was like, here you go. But listen, here's the other thing. One of the things that Dustin said also in the interview was he was like, because Ariel was like, did you take it as a slap in the face that he donated to a different charity? And Dustin's like, not at all, man. I look at it like it's for the kids. It's like a high five. And, so maybe in Dustin's mind, he's like, well, I called him out and then the $500K went to a charity in Louisiana. It's a win. It's worth it, right? If you remove that part of it, though, from a fight strategy standpoint, it was a very, very bad decision. But again, Conor ended up paying. He won. Conor paid into a charity in his community. He won. And apparently it's a charity that the Good Fight works with anyway. So I believe Dustin 100% that he considers that a huge win. But yeah, I mean, this fight's going to be a whole thing, man. Now, as a bonus, because this is my 10,000 subscribers, announcement video, I'm going to tell you guys a little story here. Okay, just real quick. And if you've never gone to Jesse on Everything, this would be a perfect example of the type of thing that would be on Jesse on Everything. I'm going to tell you guys a hilarious story, or I think you guys will think it's funny. So Clubhouse, when Clubhouse first started, it was kind of like, let's see how this thing's going to shape out. Like, what's Clubhouse going to be like, right? And if you pay attention, maybe it's just what they're suggesting to me. But to me, Clubhouse, has turned into a heavily woke kind of there seems to be not very many people who are independent and conservatives, at least talking politics on there. If you're talking about politics and culture on there, you're probably, on the left, right? So I was scrolling through like Clubhouse the other night, right? And I saw this thing. I literally just had this conversation with Giselle's jiu-jitsu coach, who's a black dude, about how stupid I think it is how we divide ourselves by race, given that, you know, if you basically asked he and I a series of like 50 questions, like, how do you feel about this? That he and I would land in the same category 49 times. You know, like, do you think this is important to teach your kids? Yes. Do you think this is an unhealthy way to blah, blah, blah? Yes. You know, what are you passionate about? Boom, we'd be in the same thing. And then they're like, okay, now if you're black, go over here. If you're white, go over here. And then so we go over there. So this one random idiotic thing to you know, a thing that we had no choice in is the thing that everybody's just dividing us into. Like, it doesn't even make any sense. It's like, and like on the black side, you got Haitians, you have, you know, like black actual descendants of slaves in America. You have people from, you know, that just came here from Africa. I mean, like just to go, oh, that's a black guy. Like, it's so ridiculous in general. It's just generalizing in a way that doesn't apply. And then you have over here, it's like white guy. You're all, well, I mean, this guy just got off the boat from Sweden. Do you think he's the same as some dude who grew up in Kentucky, you know, 5th generation Kentucky? Those two guys are the same. Like, it's just so dumb. Like, it's just so dumb, right? It's just dumb. And it was a conversation that he and I had, and I was like, that's a pretty profound thought, you know? Like, so I was scrolling through Clubhouse, right? And I see this room that was called Real Black Conservatives, self-loathing on Clubhouse. And so I read it. I was like, oh, a group of black conservatives. Like, this is a perfect place for me to just share this conversation that I just had, you know, with Cam, because I think it's an important point. Like, I actually really think that's like an important point to make, that like, look at all the things we have in common. Why would anyone just assume that this is the way to categorize people? So I go into that room, right? Raise my hand. They put me up. It's, it's 90%, you know, like black participants, right? But it's called Real Black Conservatives. So it's not surprising. So they call on me to speak, right? And I said exactly what I just laid out, right? Like, I was like, you know, what I don't understand when it comes to like these, as an example, like these police incidents is, you know, you basically, it feels like if you're black, you see the police as the enemy for the most part. You know, I mean, obviously there are exceptions, but they seem to, like, it seems that, you know, the police are going to be the bad guys and the black suspect is going to be the good guy. And basically it's irrelevant. And then on the white, it's a little more complicated because you got a lot of people who are trying to be over here and whatever. But in the black community, it seems like they almost automatically are villainizing the cop. And obviously I'm generalizing here. That's not, I mean, like, in terms of like percentages, you know, they see the cop as the villain and the black guy as the victim, regardless of the circumstances. And I was like, and so I went through the thing, like, you know, if you ask this person like, hey, where'd you grow up? Or like, here, are you passionate about this? You know, and then you said something like, hey, have you ever, like, to an observer versus the suspect and the cop, you're like, hey, have you ever done fentanyl? You know, and the person, you know, black observer is like, no, I've never done fentanyl. It's like, have you ever been arrested? No, I haven't. Have you ever put a gun to someone's stomach and robbed them? Absolutely not. Okay. Do you have a family? Yes, I do. Okay, so, well, you have way more in common with this police officer than you do with the suspect who, you know, was doing XYZ, which led to this incident. So I don't understand why does it seem like the default position is this superficial thing that no one has any control over, when in actuality, in many cases, really, you know, like, because I'm talking about smart, educated, you know, like black people who, like, I mean, they have everything in common with me. And then for whatever reason, when they watch those incidents, all of a sudden they go, oh, like, I align with this guy, when they have nothing in common with that person. Nothing. Literally not a single thing in common. So that's the case that I laid out, okay? So that room, real black conservatives, self-loathing on Clubhouse, think through that title again, okay? Because I just took it at face value, real black conservatives, okay? I just didn't really think about what the next sentence meant. And I had walked into the most heavy, like fundamentalist true believer Black Lives Matter room, and I dropped that on him, okay? This is 100% true story, okay? I dropped that into like the most like feverish Black Lives Matter clubhouse room that you could be in. They were saying that anyone who's black and is a conservative is a person who hates themselves. That's what the title actually meant, and I just didn't understand it. I misread it. So I realized this very quickly because the first guy who responded was like, he gave me some, I could tell he was being really confrontational, and I was like, I don't understand how anyone could be confrontational about this. I'm literally saying, I don't understand. And anyway, so I don't need to tell you the whole, the end result actually ended up being, because I was able to kind of share my thoughts in more detail. And what actually ended up happening was the room split in half, and they ended up fighting with each other, right? And then all of a sudden, half this Black Lives Matter room started saying all of these things that I know to be true, where they were like, don't you guys realize that the left-wing media is focusing on all this, that they're showing us these cases because they know it makes us hurt. They're capitalizing on our pain to get us to vote their direction. That's why you only know the names of black suspects that gets killed, that you don't know the names of white suspects that get killed, because the left-wing media is doing that to manipulate us. And I was like, my man. I was like, well, I'm not going to actually pretend that I was, because now there are people fighting. I just was staying out on the sideline. But like, I was like, exactly. Which is, that's my whole problem with it. It's like, they create a false choice where it's like, oh, either you see this person as the victim and the cop as the bad guy, or you're racist. And I'm like, no, I see you as the racist media. You guys are taking historical injustice, like historical, just straight up evil, and then using it to manipulate an entire population. Okay, like I see exactly what you're doing, and I see that as evil and racist. So if you tell me that I just need to say that any black suspect who tried to stab a cop and got shot is the cop's the bad guy, or else I'm racist, I reject your choice. And I'm saying, you posing it that way, you're the racist. You're the manipulative person who's actually taking advantage of this community and making them angry, and then making them feel like, anyway. But that was the result. The funniest part, though, was the moment when I realized what I had done. That I was like, I thought I was walking into a huge group of people who would just, of course, be aligned to the thing I was saying. And it was like pulling the pin on a grenade and just dropping it in the room. Anyway, but I'll tell you what else it showed me, though. As far apart as people think they are, not that far apart, dude. Like, not that far apart. My whole point was to basically attack the entire narrative of that group. And what ended up happening was the majority of the room recognized that I had good intentions, and we were completely cool. Like, we were not just cool. They were like, I can tell that you're coming from a place of empathy, and you're coming from a good place. And I said things that you would never think that you could say to a group of Black Lives Matter activists. And my point is, don't buy into the shit that's meant to divide the country, because it's intentional, and it has nothing to do with black versus white unless you allow it to do that. That's their intention, is to make it that way. Because when you actually talk to the activists themselves, activists, these are not people who are like burning buildings down. These are like actual people who passionately believe these things that, if you show them the statistics, are probably not accurate, but it's nonetheless. But if you actually talk to them, we're not that far apart at all. We're really not. As a matter of fact, you're mostly aligned. It's the media and the establishment that is the enemy. Anyway, thank you guys for the 10,000. If you like this last part, go follow me on Jesse on everything, because that's all I talk about all day on there. So, love you guys. Thank you again. Peace.